Welcome to the International Solar Alliance's Expert Training Series. This is part of a cooperation between the Clean Energy Solutions Center and the International Solar Alliance. The goal of this initiative is to bring expert trainings to stakeholders around the world who are interested in learning more about solar energy policy, solar energy strategy, as well as the technical and engineering-related aspects of solar development. The International Solar Alliance was founded on the idea that the potential for solar energy to bring cost-effective, affordable energy to countries around the world is tremendous. The Clean Energy Solutions Center is also, in partnership with the International Solar Alliance, one of the leading institutions in providing training and capacity building solutions to support the scale-up of solar. This international training series is going to be led by a number of experts from around the world. To my left, I have Dr. David Jacobs with IET, International Energy Transition, based here in Berlin. And to my right is Hugo Lucas, an expert with Factor, here also in Berlin. And I'm Toby Couture, the director of E3 Analytics. The technical components of this training series are going to be delivered by a range of experts from the National Renewable Energy Lab.
In this training course, we'll have a total of 8 modules. In these modules, you will learn about technologies, you will learn about policies, and we're also going to present a wide range of case studies from around the world of how solar PV deployment took place in the last couple of years. In the first module, we're going to look at policies for distributed solar PV, so mostly focusing on roof-mounted solar PV. We will just discuss the different policies that are used for this market segment, feed-in tariffs, for instance, net metering, net fit programs, and so on. So you will have a wide range of policies you can use in order to steer this market segment. We will also look at rate design, because this has been a major concern for utilities. How do you need to restructure the rates for your customers in order to integrate solar PV and have a fair cost and burden distribution among all ratepayers? And last but not least, we will also look at different business models for solar PV, because around the world we have seen that there's a large variety of business models emerging in different markets around the world. In Module 2, we will look at policies for large-scale solar PV. And you know, most of solar PV large-scale projects in the last couple of years have been triggered by auctions. So we're going to have 2 in-depth sessions on auctions. First of all, focusing on the basic auction design, also looking at the latest results of auctions around the world, and also trying to understand what is actually needed to achieve these very low-cost auctions that we have seen in countries like Mexico, Morocco, and other countries around the world. Next to this, we will also try to understand some of the more finer auction design mechanisms, for instance, to trigger some specific socio-economic benefits like job creation. What kind of specific auction design is actually required to not only have low-cost auctions, but to balance this with other policy objectives that policymakers also might have. In Module 3, we will look at the future of policies for solar PV and also for concentrated solar power. When we look at the future of solar PV, we will start with a discussion of subsidies for solar. Because the big question is, does solar still need subsidies? How much longer? Do they still need subsidies at all? There's a variety of opinions about this around the world. So first of all, we need to have a clear understanding what is actually a subsidy and what is market design. And from there, we move on in the second session and look how much longer and in which markets solar PV might still require a subsidy and where we can already operate with a slightly modified market design. In the next module, Module 4, we're going to look at more technical issues. That means, how do you integrate an increasing share of solar PV in distribution and transmission networks into the system? So we're going to look at, for instance, transmission planning. How much new transmission capacity do you actually need to integrate a certain share of solar PV? We're also going to look at distribution network planning, what is needed at this point. And we also, of course, going to look at some other technical issues like grid codes and so on. So you will learn from a technical perspective what is needed in order to increase the share of distributed and also large-scale solar PV. In Module 5, you will learn about the market and system integration of solar PV. We saw a lot of countries around the world in the last couple of years where the share of solar PV was increasing rapidly. And this had impacts on the market, especially on the wholesale market, where we actually saw the price going down, which is normally referred to as a merit order effect. So we will discuss this in depth, inasmuch as a duck curve, which has been observed in many markets, for instance in California. We're also going to discuss this with you. We're also going to look at how you have to design wholesale markets in order to integrate solar PV in the most cost-effective way. In this module, we will also look at energy storage, and we will also look at sector coupling. So that means coupling the electricity sector with the heating and cooling sector and with the transport sector, which might also help to better integrate solar PV into the energy system as a whole.
And now we move on to the module on socioeconomics of the solar sector. The International Renewable Energy Agency estimates that 3.5 million people work today in the solar sector. And these people are working both in developed and developing countries. China, India, Bangladesh are countries leading this ranking. Furthermore, the agency estimates that in 2050, 9 million people will be working in the solar sector. In this module, we will study these trends, but we will look into the detail of the support schemes, the neighboring environment, and the policies for countries to maximize the local content. Linked to employment, there is the need for education of professionals. The sector is demanding a huge quantity of qualified skills, and today the education sector is not providing these professionals. So we will look to the best strategies to improve, increase, and facilitate access to education and training in the solar sector. Last but not least, there is a need to increase awareness. The final user, people at home, in the industry, they don't know the benefit of having a rooftop solar or installing a concentrated solar heat system for their industry and in their industrial processes. We will study the best way to communicate renewables. We will study which are the misconceptions that today persist in the solar sector, and we will address them with the best practices on overcoming this misconception. We will look into the detail and we will discuss the needed ecosystem for a sustainable market deployment solar off-grid, because today it still has to be proof that this company and this market are sustainable in time. They are all companies struggling to get more incomes for their activities. They are becoming multi-utilities. They are selling not only electricity, but they are selling devices, they are selling IT, water. They are being microfinance companies as well. So we will look to these all trends in the market and the policies and support schemes needed for a sustainable off-grid market.
The eighth and final component of this International Solar Alliance training series is going to be focused specifically on the solar heating and cooling sector. This is an often underappreciated aspect of the solar sector, and yet the potential is tremendous. So we're going to break this down into three different components. One training session focused specifically on some of the challenges, another focusing specifically on the technology, and a final component looking at the various policy and regulatory mechanisms that can be used to scale up investment in the solar heating and cooling sector. Now that you've seen an overview of the various topics that we're going to cover in this training series, David, Hugo, and myself are really looking forward to joining you as we explore these topics together. We're also grateful for the support provided by the Clean Energy Solutions Center and the International Solar Alliance that make this training series possible. We greatly look forward to joining you as we explore the solar sector together.